In the hushed, shadowed alcoves of our world, where the veil between the known and the utterly unknowable thins to a gossamer thread, there exist certain towns, certain houses, certain figures around whom the very fabric of reality seems to ripple with an ancient malevolent energy. And it is in such a place, nestled amidst the brooding New England coast, that we find ourselves drawn tonight, to a tale not merely of greed and violent consequence, but of a cosmic justice so profound, so utterly alien, that it chills the blood not with simple fear, but with the bone-deep dread of realms beyond human comprehension. A realm where even the most seemingly harmless of octogenarians might command forces that tear men limb from limb with a casual, almost indifferent, otherworldly malice. A world brought to us by the master weaver of cosmic despair himself, H.P. Lovecraft, in his chillingly concise yet utterly devastating narrative, The Terrible Old Man. Prepare yourselves, then, to journey with me into the quaint yet eternally sinister town of Kingsport, a settlement that, like so many of Lovecraft's locales, holds within its seemingly innocuous clapboard facades and winding ancient lanes secrets far older than its puritanical founding, whispers of things that predate humanity, echoes of an elder darkness that clings to the very stones and roots of the earth. And in this particular corner of Kingsport, casting an elongated shadow that stretched like a spectral finger from the very depths of primordial time, stood the house of Barzillai Whately, or, as he was more commonly known to the terrified and superstitious townsfolk, the Terrible Old Man, a figure whose very existence was a morbid tapestry woven from conjecture, half-heard tales, and the visceral instinctual fear that humans reserve for that which defies all rational explanation. A fear that gnawed at the edges of the local consciousness like a rat at a shroud. For this old man, despite his advanced age, which was rumoured to exceed a century and a half, carried about him an aura of unearthly vitality, an unnerving keenness in his pale, watery eyes that seemed to peer not merely at the present, but into the vast abyssal stretches of time and space, seeing things that would shatter the sanity of any lesser mortal. His physical form, though bent and seemingly frail, possessed an unholy resilience. His gaunt face a roadmap of aeons, etched with lines that spoke not of normal aging, but of exposure to unspeakable horrors and unimaginable vistas. Horrors that had not broken him, but perhaps had somehow infused him with a preternatural power. The legends surrounding him were manifold and fantastic, whispered with bated breath across tavern tables and behind cupped hands in the shadowed market squares. Tales of his immense and ill-gotten wealth, a fortune purportedly accumulated through clandestine sea voyages to forgotten, Cyclopean cities submerged beneath the waves, or through arcane dealings with entities best left unmentioned, a veritable hoard of gold and precious artifacts. Some hinted of origins utterly alien to this terrestrial sphere, all locked away within his decrepit fortress-like domicile, a place shunned by all, for it was not merely the old man himself who inspired such dread, but the very grounds upon which his house stood, overgrown with tangled weeds and ancient gnarled trees that seemed to writhe like tortured limbs. And within its confines, standing sentinel in the yard, were peculiar, crudely fashioned stone figures, their faces distorted into grotesque caricatures, each one facing inwards towards the house, as if guarding some unspeakable secret, or perhaps, as some truly shuddered to consider, as if eternally watching the dwelling, awaiting a command from their ancient terrible master. For Lovecraft's genius lay in his ability to imbue the mundane with the monstrous, to turn a simple, reclusive old man into a nexus of cosmic terror, a living relic of forgotten eons, and the people of Kingsport, being wise in the subtle nuances of supernatural dread, understood on a primal level that Barzillai Whateley was not merely old, but ancient, a being who had perhaps brushed too closely with the great old ones, or had been touched by the chaotic energies of the outer gods, and had emerged from that contact transformed, imbued with a power that transcended the natural order. Into this brooding tableau of silent dread and lingering malevolence stumbled three men, three coarse, materialistic ruffians whose minds were as devoid of spiritual apprehension as their pockets were devoid of coin. Men utterly incapable of comprehending the delicate, deadly balance of power that governed the existence of the terrible old man. For them, Barzillai Whateley was nothing more than a senile, feeble target, an easy mark ripe for the picking, a repository of legendary gold waiting to be liberated by their practical thieving hands. Their names were Angelo Ricci, Joe Shanek, and Manuel Silva, each a career criminal, a hardened opportunist whose lives had been spent navigating the grimy underbelly of society, dismissive of quaint New England superstitions, blind to the subtle warning signs that screamed of an impending, utterly unearthly doom. Their ambition, fueled by base greed and a profound lack of imagination, overshadowed any instinct for self-preservation, any inkling that they might be treading upon ground consecrated by powers they could not even begin to fathom. They saw only an old man, alone, wealthy, and seemingly helpless, an irresistible equation for their rapacious desires. And so, with a cynical bravado born of ignorance, they laid their plans, meticulously charting their course through the shadowed streets, their hearts beating not with fear, but with the feverish anticipation of illicit riches. The night they chose for their audacious crime descended upon Kingsport like a shroud woven of despair and ancient secrets. The moon, a mere sliver in the vast inky blackness, offered little solace or illumination, casting long, distorted shadows that danced with an unsettling life of their own, as Ricci, Chanek, and Silva approached the old man's house, an edifice that seemed to groan under the weight of untold centuries, its weathered timbers warped and twisted like the skeletal fingers of some long-dead colossus. The air grew thick with a palpable sense of oppression. A musty, earthy odour mingled with something else, something metallic and strangely sweet, like decaying blossoms on a forgotten tomb, an olfactory premonition of the horrors that lay within. Yet their minds, impervious to such subtle warnings, remained fixed on their golden prize, their senses dulled by the intoxicating fumes of avarice. They slipped silently through the broken gate, past the silent, staring stone figures, each one a grotesque sentinel seemingly carved from the very nightmares of the earth. And as they forced their way into the house, the ancient timbers shrieked in protest, a sound that seemed less like wood-rending and more like the tormented cry of a living, sentient being, echoing through the empty, dust-choked corridors, an ominous overture to their impending doom. Inside, the darkness was absolute, thick and velvety, a palpable entity that seemed to press in on them from all sides, suffocating them with its ancient weight. The air within was stagnant, heavy with the scent of age, decay, and something else, something indescribable. A scent that prickled the hairs on their arms and hinted at entities best left undisturbed. Their flashlights, cut feeble paths through the oppressive gloom, revealing dust-shrouded furniture draped in cobwebs like ancient burial shrouds, and a pervasive silence that was more terrifying than any scream, a silence that spoke of long-abandoned rituals and forgotten residents. They moved with the practiced stealth of their trade, their senses now on edge, though their minds still clung to the delusion of a simple robbery. They found the old man in his chamber, a room that served as both his bedchamber and his inner sanctum, a place where the veil between worlds was stretched taut. Threatening to tear asunder, he sat, gaunt and watchful, his pale, unnerving eyes fixed on them with an unnerving intensity, a faint, almost imperceptible smile playing upon his thin lips, a smile that held no warmth, no welcome, but rather a profound, chilling amusement, the kind of mirth one might display whilst observing insects unknowingly crawling towards a flame. And in that moment a flicker of genuine fear, cold and sharp, pierced through the robber's hardened exteriors, for there was something utterly wrong about this old man, something ancient and terrible that defied all their cynical expectations. And then their eyes, driven by the insatiable lust for wealth, fell upon the true heart of the old man's power, the source of his terrible reputation, a collection of bottles, countless bottles, arranged on a rickety table, on shelves, on the very floor, each one unique, each one a vessel for something unspeakable, some filled with opaque liquids, others with viscous luminescent gels that pulsed with a faint internal light. Still others seemingly empty, yet radiating a cold, palpable presence. Each bottle was adorned with a crudely fashioned lead figure, some representing sailors, others strange, unidentifiable creatures from the deepest, most lightless chasms of the ocean, or perhaps from the cyclopean ruins of other planets. Each figurine was distinct, a silent, grotesque sentinel, and it was to these bottles, to these figures, that the old man spoke. His voice, though cracked and frail, imbued with an authority that echoed with the weight of ages. He addressed them as gentlemen, his tone familiar, intimate, as if conversing with ancient companions, long-lost comrades from voyages through sunless seas and across unimaginable gulfs of space and time. Lovecraft's masterful strokes paint a picture of these bottles not merely as curiosities, but as conduits, as prisons, as sacred vessels containing entities, spirits, intelligences, or perhaps fragments of ancient consciousness harvested from the very fabric of the cosmos, entities bound to the old man's will through arcane pacts and forgotten rituals, ready to unleash their unholy fury upon command. A silent, deadly legion waiting for their terrible master to bid them strike, and the robbers, oblivious to the true nature of what they beheld, saw only strange trinkets, bizarre collector's items, their greed blinding them to the terrifying reality that pulsed within those glass confines. It was in this moment, as Ricci made his move, lunging for the old man, his hand outstretched to silence the ancient guardian of these forbidden treasures, that the true, unspeakable horror unfurled itself, a chaos so profound, so utterly alien, that it defied all human understanding. The old man, with an almost imperceptible flick of his ancient wrist, uttered a single guttural command, a whisper that seemed to rip through the very fabric of reality, a sound not meant for human ears. And then the bottles, those innocuous glass vessels, erupted not with physical force, but with an unseen, preternatural violence. The lead figures, those grotesque miniatures, seemed to twist and contort, their crude features melting and reforming into expressions of pure, unadulterated malevolence, a chorus of unholy whispers, a cacophony of ancient inhuman shrieks tore through the chamber, sounds that curdled the blood and shattered the very air itself. It was not a struggle, not a fight, but an execution, swift and terrifyingly efficient. The robbers, caught utterly unawares, their mundane weapons useless against such ethereal might, were assailed by unseen claws, by spectral teeth, by forces that tore at their flesh and their sanity with equal ferocity. From outside the house, the horrified neighbours heard only fragmented screams, choked and desperate, followed by a sickening chorus of wet, rending noises, a symphony of unspeakable agony that cut through the night. Sounds that spoke of bodies being torn asunder, of bones snapping like dry twigs, of flesh being shredded by things without form, without substance, yet possessing a horrific, tangible power, a power wielded by the terrible old man, whose pale eyes glowed with an unholy satisfaction, a vindictive gleam that spoke of ancient scores settled, of transgressions punished with a severity that echoed with the justice of forgotten gods. And then, as suddenly as it had begun, the monstrous cacophony subsided, leaving behind an even more profound, more chilling silence. A silence pregnant with the unspeakable aftermath of cosmic retribution. A silence that hinted at the profound vulnerability of humanity when confronted with the boundless malevolent power of the truly unknown. The dawn, when it finally crept reluctantly over the brooding hills of Kingsport, casting its pallid light upon the old man's house, revealed a scene of unspeakable horror. A testament to the night's monstrous events that would forever haunt the collective nightmares of the town. For the authorities, those poor, bewildered representatives of mundane law and order, discovered the bodies of Angelo Ricci, Joe Chanek, and Manuel Silva, not merely dead, but mutilated beyond recognition, their forms reduced to grotesque, dismembered fragments, their faces frozen in expressions of terminal, soul-shattering terror, a terror so profound that it seemed to scorch the very air around them. Their wounds were not the work of any human blade or bullet, but rather suggested the rending, tearing force of something utterly non-human, something ancient and razor-sharp, leaving behind a bloody tableau of cosmic violence, the kind of horror that strips away all pretense of civilization and exposes the raw, primal fear that lurks at the very core of our being. The terrible old man, meanwhile, sat undisturbed in his chair, his eyes bright, perhaps even brighter than before. His lips curled into that same faint, inscrutable smile, a smile that conveyed a profound sense of satisfaction, a quiet triumph, as if he had merely swept away a few bothersome dust motes, rather than orchestrating the gruesome demise of 3 human beings. The town of Kingsport was plunged into a renewed state of dread, their superstitions confirmed, their fears validated by a horror so absolute that it defied all rational explanation. The authorities, baffled and utterly helpless, could offer no answers, no arrests, no closure. For how could they apprehend a force that existed beyond the realm of human law, a force that operated according to the terrible, ancient justice of a universe utterly indifferent and often overtly hostile to the insignificant lives of mankind? And so the legend of the terrible old man grew, cementing his place in the macabre folklore of Kingsport, a silent, enduring testament to the lurking horrors that lie just beyond the thin veneer of our everyday reality. This grim little tale, deceptively simple in its narrative, yet profoundly unsettling in its implications, serves as a quintessential example of Lovecraft's early genius, a precursor to the grander, more expansive cosmic horrors that would define his later work, but no less potent in its ability to instill a primal, gut-wrenching dread. At its heart lies the chilling theme of supernatural justice, a concept far removed from the rational, measured justice of human courts. Here, punishment is meted out by forces that operate on an entirely different scale of morality, or indeed amorality. The old man, seemingly frail and vulnerable, is not a victim, but an agent of ancient retribution, a conduit for entities that exact a terrible toll for trespass and sacrilege. The robbers, in their hubris and materialistic ignorance, dismiss the whispers of the unseen world at their gravest peril. Their downfall is a direct consequence of their inability to perceive the deeper, darker currents that flow beneath the surface of reality. A profound illustration of the dangers of a purely rational, materialistic worldview in a universe teeming with the inexplicable and the monstrous. They are shattered not by an old man, but by the cosmic forces he commands, by the very fabric of the unknown itself. For Lovecraft, the true terror lies not in gore, but in the overwhelming sense of humanity's insignificance, its utter powerlessness against the vast, indifferent, and often malevolent cosmos. The bottles in the old man's room are more than mere plot devices. They are metaphors for the delicate membrane that separates our mundane existence from the boundless, chaotic dimensions that press in on all sides. Each vessel a miniature prison for an entity, a spirit, a fragment of consciousness harvested from the preternatural depths, perhaps from the ocean's abyssal plains, or from the fathomless void between stars, or even from the very dream realms that lie beyond the gates of sleep. Each of these captive horrors, bound to the old man's will through arcane pacts and forgotten rituals, acts as a chilling reminder that our world is but a tiny, fragile island in an infinite sea of terrifying possibilities. The terrible aspect of the old man's moniker is deeply ambiguous and profoundly Lovecraftian. Is he terrible because he is inherently evil, a malevolent sorcerer delighting in the suffering of others, or is he terrible because he is merely a guardian, an ancient sentinel whose duty it is to protect the sacred and the forbidden, wielding powers that are inherently terrifying? Regardless of intent, Lovecraft leaves this open to chilling interpretation, forcing us to confront the unsettling possibility that even a protector can be a figure of unimaginable dread. A being whose existence is entwined with such ancient horrors that their very presence is a terror in itself. He is a living relic, a testament to the longevity of certain truths, certain pacts, certain horrors that endure across untold millennia. His very survival beyond the normal span of human life, hinting at unnatural sustenance, at bargains struck with entities from beyond the veil of sane perception, and his unearthly vitality, the unnerving keenness in his pale, watery eyes, the faint, inscrutable smile, all serve to underscore his connection to forces that transcend our understanding of life and death, making him less a man and more a symbol, a beacon for the dreadful, the unimaginable, the cosmic horror that lurks in the most unexpected corners of our ostensibly safe world. A silent ancient sentinel whose power is derived not from brute strength, but from a profound understanding of the esoteric and the forbidden, an understanding that makes him a terrifying master of the unseen. The story also serves as a poignant exploration of Lovecraft's signature style and language. His prose, rich with evocative adjectives and archaic phrasing, crafts an atmosphere of profound dread, not through overt violence, but through insidious suggestion, through the careful layering of unnerving details that slowly erode the reader's sense of security, the way he describes the old man's house. His eyes, the bottles, all contribute to a creeping sense of unease that blossoms into full-blown terror. His masterful use of implication, leaving the most horrific details to the reader's imagination, is far more effective than any explicit description could ever be, allowing the mind to conjure up horrors far more potent and personal. His meticulous sentence structure, often long and winding, mimics the slow, inexorable descent into madness and the unknown that characterizes his best work, drawing the reader deeper into the narrative's suffocating embrace, immersing them fully in the pervasive atmosphere of cosmic insignificance and existential dread, where humanity is reduced to a fleeting, fragile spark in the face of an ancient, overwhelming darkness, and the use of Kingsport as a setting is no mere coincidence. It is one of Lovecraft's recurring fictional towns, a place imbued with a history far deeper and darker than its colonial facade suggests, a place where the ancient secrets of the earth and perhaps of other worlds lie just beneath the surface, waiting for the opportune moment to erupt, to remind humanity of its precarious position in a universe that does not care, a universe governed by entities whose motives and methods are utterly incomprehensible, whose power is absolute, and whose very existence is a chilling testament to the fragile illusion of our own dominion. The Terrible Old Man, though an early work, written in 1920, firmly establishes many of the thematic and stylistic hallmarks that would come to define Lovecraft's enduring legacy, it demonstrates his nascent ability to ground cosmic terror in seemingly mundane settings, to find the horrific in the everyday, transforming a simple robbery into a confrontation with forces that defy scientific explanation and human understanding. It lays the groundwork for later, more elaborate tales of cosmic dread, showing a clear lineage to the sprawling mythos that would come to encompass Cthulhu, Yog-Sothoth, and the myriad other entities of his terrifying pantheon. But it maintains a unique charm in its stark simplicity, its focused terror, its visceral impact, serving as a powerful reminder that sometimes the greatest horrors are found not in distant galaxies or forgotten dimensions, but in the decaying house at the end of the lane, in the silent, watchful gaze of an ancient man, in the seemingly innocuous contents of a collection of old bottles. For the enduring power of this narrative lies in its ability to tap into our deepest, most primal fears. The fear of the unknown, the fear of encroaching age, the fear of ancient evils that lie dormant, waiting for the unwary to disturb their slumber. The fear that some people, some places, are touched by forces beyond our comprehension, forces that demand respect, or exact a terrible, unspeakable price for irreverence. And it leaves us with a lingering, unsettling question: what precisely were those things in the bottles? What grotesque ancient spirits? What fragments of elder gods? What captive intelligences were bound to the will of Barzillai Whateley? And what dark pacts had he forged to command such terrifying power? A question that, like all good Lovecraftian mysteries, has no comforting answer, only the chilling echo of the unknown, a perpetual reminder that some doors, some houses, some old men are best left undisturbed, their secrets buried beneath the weight of centuries, their terrible power contained only by the profound, superstitious dread of those who know better than to pry. If this deep dive into Kingsport's shadowed corners, into the chilling echoes of the unseen, and into the cosmic retribution exacted by the terrible old man, has sent a shiver down your spine, if you found yourself captivated by the insidious dread and the masterful weaving of atmospheric terror, then I implore you, consider giving this video a like, for your support helps us continue our journey into the realms of the unthinkable, exploring the darkest corners of Lovecraft's imagination and the wider world of cosmic horror. And for those who hunger for more explorations into the eldritch, for more whispered secrets from beyond the veil, for more profound encounters with the forces that lurk just beyond our perception, be sure to subscribe to this channel, join our growing conclave of cosmic horror devotees, and let us continue to unravel the mysteries and confront the unspeakable truths that lie hidden in the ancient texts and the shadow tales of the Masters of Dread. For there are countless other horrors awaiting our gaze, countless other narratives of madness and cosmic despair begging to be illuminated by the flickering light of our shared curiosity, and with your continued support, we shall endeavour to bring them forth from the abyssal darkness, one chilling narrative at a time.